Hey there, it's the Church Solutions Podcast, and I'm Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacey.
And it's our first podcast for 2026. It's number 502. Steve, how was your holidays?
They were really good, very busy. And yes, our clan continues to
Yes.
grow. And so the chaos, and they all live here. So, and we added one, over the holidays, I guess you'd call it. Yeah. Born
Yeah.
December 8th, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's seven grandkids now?
7 grandkids.
Yeah. Yeah. And
One
so when
girl
they all
and
come
6
over,
boys.
one girl, 6 boys. So when they come over to your house, it's just chaos, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess you could describe it that way.
When they all come, and how do you handle that?
I just bite my lip, and no, I do just fine. So
You do fine, yeah.
yes,
But you're wired a lot
we are
like me.
geared for it. My wife has prepped me for years, and she's very
Yeah.
well. She's a former teacher, and she
Yeah.
teaches
Oh yeah,
at church as well still. So
yeah.
she knows she's got it all under control. We got a toy
She's
box, a treasure chest with
yeah.
all kinds of toys, and those get
Yeah.
spread all over the house.
That go everywhere, right?
Within minutes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So all right. Well, she's a trained professional. All right. So any New Year's resolutions before we interview our guest?
No.
All right. Good. You and I are a lot the same. We're big on routine. I'm very happy with my routine. I might try to eat a little better this year, but yeah, I'm comfortable with who I am. All right, enough of this yakking stuff here. So this is episode 502, and today's guest began his journey in the early 2000s as a youth minister. He did it by building websites, which eventually led to an epiphany around 2014 or so that birthed J-Pixel, which is a full-scale design agency. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But he isn't just a CEO. He also serves as the senior pastor at the Nashville Church of the Nazarene, wait for it, in Michigan, not in Tennessee. Nashville Church, okay? And he's
Oh, really?
also the creator. Yeah. You
I
didn't
thought
know
you were
that?
making a grave mistake. But,
Yeah. See, you thought. See how ye of little faith. So he's the creator, which we're going to primarily talk about today, about a thing called the Pastor's Desk, which is an app designed to help leaders spend less time at their desks and more time with their people. So, without further ado, please welcome to the show Justin Schultz. Justin, how are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me on here, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you here as well. Yeah. So Steve and I are going to ask you questions. I'm going to see. I don't know if Steve's ready to ask you a question, but I'll let him kick things off.
let me get the timeline straight.
Sure.
So youth pastor in the early 2000s, and then you'll tell me, give it to me again. What came first? What was next?
Yeah. So I was working.
I don't want
yeah.
I don't want every day, but yes.
Yeah.
An overview.
My life story.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, working in youth ministry in the early 2000s. It was 2007-ish. And we needed a website for the church, and then actually more specifically for the youth group. And I had never done anything like that before, but I thought, hey, why not? I'll see if I can figure it out. And I built the website. Thank God it's no longer out there. It's probably not very, very good, but from there, I just slowly kind of grew into design. And my oldest brother went to school for graphic design, and he has a degree. And so I leaned on him a lot. And slowly, churches and businesses started to learn that I was doing it. And I just kind of started doing it for freelance for extra money, working in ministry in smaller churches. So extra money was always good. And that's kind of where it's all started. And then moved back to Michigan from Indiana. I'm from Michigan in 2014. And actually took a position as a worship pastor at a plant in Michigan, a church plant, and then that fell through, and my family and I still moved here, and I had no work, and so I thought, hey, I'll try to do this full time, and that's kind of what birthed J-Pixel and started that adventure.
And then you went back into ministry.
Yeah, and then
'Cause
I went back into ministry, and as a music pastor, youth pastor, I've been associate pastor, an executive pastor.
It's funny. It
And
sounds a lot like me.
Yeah,
Went through that whole process.
did all the things,
Yeah.
and with that, I was still some of the ministries were part time, some were full. I've been in full time ministry for a little while now, but I've always kept the JPixel alive and kept working with churches that way, and so I have a small team that helps me.
Are you still leading worship, or?
Not officially, but yeah, I mean, we're at my church. I help lead. I'll play, and sing a little bit, but
He's a senior pastor, Steve.
Yeah, senior
pastor.
pastor.
I know.
They don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
it's the senior pastor of my church now, and Phil used to be on staff of this church, has Nazarene roots, and he came to the church that he now pastors as the worship pastor. So, and he was a worship pastor for a while, and then the senior pastor got sick. This is just right before my time, and they said we need somebody to step up, and our worship pastor stood up, and that's been 30 years ago or so now.
Wow. Yeah, I think so. And then I became the worship pastor.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So our senior,
right?
yeah, our it's kind of funny because occasionally our senior pastor will go head over to the keyboard and start playing, and they're like, "How do you know how to do that? How's he do?"
Yeah. Music has never really. It's always been something I've loved to do and a passion, and grew up doing it. So it is kind of hard to make that separation sometimes, but it's also, I think, needed and necessary. So I can focus more on the preaching and shepherding our people. So
let me butt in here and ask you a question. So, you're kind of a web designer, and now you're a senior pastor. I mean, two completely different things, I would say. But but how does your work as a designer in the past, and currently, I guess too, in some ways, how does that compare to how does that make you a better pastor?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I've actually asked myself that sometimes too when I feel like I have a pretty full plate with all
does it
of
make
the
you
things.
a worse pastor?
Yes, maybe sometimes when I have a deadline to meet for a customer. Sometimes I admittedly, maybe this is confession hour too. I'll spend time with my business during my office hours at the church. I kind of mix and match.
Say 5 Hail Marys and whatever else they do.
But I mean, with JPixel specifically, I started locally, and our county that I live in is 60,000 people, so we're not very big. And I started locally working with all kinds of businesses and banks and churches and a mixture. And then since then, I've last 5 years have branched out, and I work with people all over the United States and different kinds of businesses, mostly service oriented. But because of that, you rub shoulders and you get to know different people, different business owners, some smaller, some bigger. And in running a business myself, you kind of learn the ropes and how to sustain your business, how to grow your business. And I've definitely taken some of that and applied it to administratively and the work of the church when it comes to being organized and kind of having the high level thinking, and then how do you actually implement that and make that work? Because the design is similar too, not just the business side, but design side. You have to take this creative idea and then you have to make it a reality. And how do you do that well, and how do you do that in a timely manner so that you're making your customers happy, but ultimately making money quicker? So I've definitely taken those skills and put them into ministry, but also flipped it too, where working with a lot of different types of people, you learn how to say no quicker as well with businesses, because you don't always mesh with every business, or they're you're not your ideal client, and ends up being more work and more of a headache than it should be. And so learning how to deal with different people right in the church. And then the cool part is it's ministry, so your business is all about growing and expanding and making money, where that's not the goal of ministry. And so it definitely is sometimes a fight where you think
Mm-hmm.
business minded, and then you try to do that with church, doesn't always work or isn't always the best way to go about it. So there's definitely that inside of me
Yeah.
where I just want to push, right, and grow. And it's like, oh, wait. You're
Yeah, in
you're
some
about the
ways,
ministry
though.
of the church. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some principles though in business
Yeah.
that you can apply
I,
to ministry, and So
Mm-hmm.
go ahead, Steve.
yeah, I would. I mean, that's kind of the battle that I'm on. I'm not on the paid ministry side. I'm on the kind of the business side, running the streaming,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always the advocate for your ministry. Has a lot of the elements of running a business. I mean,
Yeah.
and so the pastors and those leading the church, I think, have to have some of the skill set of running a good business as well. Even though it is a ministry, you've got to not ignore some of the tenets to make a better ministry that you can
Right.
borrow from business side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a
ahead.
lot of people that are bi-vocational pastors, and it's the traditional route is he's a carpenter during the week or from these hours of the day to this hours of the days, and then he does this.
Mm-hmm.
You've got does your congregation consider you bivocational? Or
I am full time.
all right, you're double
lead
full-time.
pastor. I have staff at the church.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean, my time, I have to be organized and routine and scheduled, or else, I mean, it could get very hairy. Yeah, nothing would get done. Nothing would get done.
So, and on the family side, wife, kids, that whole
Yeah, we have 6 kids.
that makes it easy.
20 to 8 years old. So, I have 2 that are out of high school. One that's about, the third one's going to be graduated here at the end of this year. And then, 3 middle school and younger.
So there's
yeah,
nothing.
family time is extremely important. Yeah.
So there's nothing going on in your life.
Right, yeah,
two
yeah.
two
No-
full-time
no
jobs,
sports or other
two
schedules,
full-time
yeah.
jobs, a full
Yeah.
family schedule.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yes,
So it's
yes.
amazing you are here now.
Yeah,
doing.
right.
Yeah, and I make sure to spend a lot of time with my family. That's always been a priority, and one thing that I learned from other mentors that when they would look back and share kind of their story a little bit, they would say they wish they spent more time with their family. And so it's learning how to give yourself the day, the schedule. And the cool thing is we live in a parsonage, so I'll just walk next door, take a break, go hang out with the kids and the family, eat lunch,
Yeah.
and then also having a cut time at the end of the day, like the day's over, you're done,
You start your second job, right?
I mean, yeah, they're all intertwined together.
I went through this too because I had a full-time job before I launched this, and for several years it was made very busy nights and weekends. So anyway, go ahead, Phil.
Well, I was bivocational. I was actually involved in ministry in some capacity for almost over 4 decades, and probably half of that I was bivocational, if not maybe a little more. So I understand that. I think we all understand that, and I think our listeners probably understand that. So let me get to the pastor's desk, because it sounds to me like the administrative chaos that you have faced yourself with all the things you've got going on with not only a business, but a church, and then of course a family. It sounds to me like maybe the pastor's desk you built that to maybe not only help other people, but help yourself. So tell us, what is it and why should people care?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, actually it was the brainchild of myself and a co-minister, someone that I worked in ministry with for a long time. And we thought, man, it'd be really cool if somebody came up with something like that. And there's similar things out there, but this is a little different in some ways. And so eventually I kind of got to the point where I couldn't depend on my sticky notes by themselves anymore. I've got several different workbooks, that I'll write in and then have to shift through the notes.
I have a sticky note there too.
I mean, I still use sticky notes, but
not
as much. But so I mean, really, it was created, for myself. I needed some help and support, and I design websites, but I'm a visual designer. I'm what's called a user experience designer, UX. So the front end, what you see visually, is really what I do, and then I have people to help me with the harder stuff, the codes, the back end stuff.
Yeah.
I know a little bit. You got to know a little bit to be in this world, but
Sure.
and so I mean, I created to help pastors and ministry leaders just save time and organize their ministries better, the administrative side of it, so that they could ultimately be better at being ministers, better at being with their people and giving them the time that they need to and investing in their communities.
Tell us some features. Tell us, so what makes this thing special? What are some of the features in it?
I mean, the simplest one is the ministry tasks board, which basically, in a sticky note you would write, for me, I upload sermons every week. So upload Monday's sermon or Sunday's sermon on Monday. So I would schedule a task just like you would in a calendar. But you can create and schedule tasks through there. You have a directory, so you can upload your directory of your church, your members and your regular attenders. And then once that directory is uploaded, you can assign pastoral care. So if I need to go to hospital, there's a pastoral care board as well. So if I need to go visit Phil in the hospital, I'll create a care ticket and put his name, link from the directory, put his name, put what the care is, so hospital visit, and then schedule it as well. And then it has, this is bad, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a drag, like you could take a sticky note and drag and, move it. So once I create that care ticket, I can basically drag his care from needing to go see him to seeing him to follow up, those kinds of things. Which that one's, I think, the most used right now, the pastoral care board. Pastors are using that for home visits and scheduling hospital visits and other types of follow-ups. The other is a sermon board where there's a lectionary on there where you can look, even if you don't follow lectionary, you can get advice or input or resources on maybe what pastors to preach on and things like that. And it had this might be a fun discussion. It had an AI feature as well where it helps you create an outline and create a sermon. But we've kind of stepped back from that a little bit.
Why have you done that?
I mean, the outline feature is still there. Currently it's disabled, but it's going to be re-enabled here actually probably today. But the creating of the sermon, we really believe, AI it's a resource, it's a tool, it's how you use it, but really, we believe it's the job of the pastor to, through the Holy Spirit's leading and guiding, to write the sermon that he'll have them preach. And when you depend solely on AI to write your sermon for you, you're kind of missing that important piece of preaching and of writing. And so we definitely want them to use it to help with maybe an outline or an exegesis or something like that. But when it comes to actually writing the sermon, we believe it's the work of the pastor.
So you had it, but then you've removed it. Did you get pushback?
No, I haven't yet.
Or
no.
Okay.
No.
Did you but you removed it because you got pushback, or you guys just had second thoughts?
Self-reflection, really. I mean,
that's fine.
I was like, I know this is just me, but this is our creation. So we're gonna put that on others. No one's gonna push it. But I read a statistic, and I don't remember where it was. So I mean, I don't know if it counts or not, but it was like 60% of pastors in the United States are using AI. And of that percentage, a high percentage of them are also using it to write their sermons. And I find that very interesting and a little worrisome. But
okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
So I thought, I don't know, I'm always kind of like, authority, forget you. Like I'm going to do what I want. And so everybody's saying they're doing it and should be doing it. So I'm like, let's think about it.
So, just a couple of questions. You were mentioning loading your members, and then you could assign tasks to leaders in the church to follow up with Phil so everybody's accessing this pastor's desk tool as well, or do they get an email, or how's that work?
No, so it's an individual user, and the you're assigning it for yourself. So if I'm using it as a pastor, I'm assigning. Like if I want to follow up with a member of the church, it just I assign who it is that I'm following up with, basically. If I'm going to do a hospital visit, it's with Phil.
Okay.
And so it's just.
But if you wanted, You wanted
Yeah.
your associate pastor to follow up with Phil. He's got to be on there too, or
He has to have his own. Right now, it's individual users, but we are working
Okay.
on a team element of it where you can
Okay.
sign up as a church, and then you can assign tasks to each other, and then see it will show up on your individual account.
and then
So that's
I'm
kind
going
of
to show
next.
the next piece.
Yeah.
I'm going to show my ignorance here. You mentioned a word that I'm sure Phil knows that I don't know. Lectionary? What is a lectionary?
Yeah, so the lectionary basically follows the church calendar year. So, Advent is the first day of the new year for the church calendar, not January 1st. And so that's when the lectionary year starts. And what it does is it gives you a psalm reading for every Sunday, and then a New Testament gospel reading, and then some give you another Old Testament reading, and then the main gospel for that Sunday. And so the lectionary, again, it follows the church calendar year. So as you go through Advent, and then Christmas is actually more than one Sunday or one day in the lectionary. And then, now we're in the season of Epiphany, where there's 6, 7, 8 Sundays of Epiphany ish. I know and then, you get into Lent, and then Easter, which is more than just a day. And so that's what it does, is it gives you scripture passages to follow those themes, if you will, for the church. And so that way you're following the church calendar instead of, the United States calendar, 4th of July and, Memorial Day and that kind of stuff.
A lot of denominations have that besides Nazarene. So the pastor's desk, I want to stay on this a little bit. I'm surprised Steve hasn't asked you about the coding yet, but
I'm resisting.
Yeah, I know. But so does this app help? Like, one of the things that pastors dread are the board meeting preparations, those kind of things. Does this app help with maybe reporting processes and all that?
Yeah, so there's a feature on there so anything that I schedule in January, right? If I put a ministry task and it's January, or pastoral care in January, there's a board on the pastor's desk for reports, monthly reports, where you can select what notes or tasks that you did for the month. You can select those and then hit basically upload, and it will create basically an outline or report of what you did that month, of the activities. And you can give that to your board. We're working on, right now it works, but we're working on making it a little bit better, more intuitive for the reader, which would be the board member or the church member. But yeah, so you could basically just click a button. As long as you've used it throughout the month, you just basically click submit report or create report, and it will give you an outline, a PDF of what you did that month that you could give to your board. And so, yeah.
So Phil took some notes for us to ask some questions, and there was a term in there that you're familiar with Kanban or not? Or is that Phil's
With
term?
what?
With regard to the care board, there's Kanban. Or is that new to you? Okay. All right.
No.
Well,
It has to do with the care board. So it's the congregation's needs.
Okay.
The change visually change the way the pastor handles
the notes had triggered me because it's
visitation.
going back to my corporate days. Because Kanban was a big thing they would do in a factory setting, is setting up visual cues for things, and so I guess the care board has these visual cues for it as well. Okay,
it's like a click and drag. Basically, it creates a card that you can then click and drag it through a process, which is you can edit as well. You can create your own care type and how many levels of care you basically take that person through.
Yeah.
all
right. So before we get into how people can find this, how pastors can find this, and how their website and all that, because you've done some online stuff, and that's one of the things we try to do around here is for the Church Solutions podcast is talk about some tech things as well as online stuff. So you created websites. Let me just throw this question out to you. 70% of the people find their church online first. Their church online first.
Right. Yeah.
what would you think is the biggest mistake that you have seen in maybe small, mid-sized churches that I assume you're in
Yeah.
and pastor? What do you think is their biggest mistake when it comes to their online presence today?
I mean, assuming they have one, right? I'd say that's a lot of. I mean, there's over 300,000 churches in the United States, over 500,000 pastors in the United States, and I don't know how. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but I know it's roughly around there. And the average church is what, 50 to 70 people in the U.S.
That's what it's been for a long time, yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing is if they do have a website, they try to look like the church that has, 1,000 people, which means they have to use stock photography and they have to basically, if I were to go online and search for a church in my area and I find them and I click on it and then I actually go and visit them, a lot of the times it doesn't connect, it doesn't match what I experienced online compared to when I go and visit them. And so the website is an extension of who they are as a church, just kind of sharing here, this is who we are, this is what we're about, this is what we do, this is what you might experience and feel like when you come and visit us. So I think the biggest mistake is they try to basically, not realizing it or hopefully not knowingly, trick people into thinking that they are what they really aren't. Where really, 50 to 70 size, which our congregation is about 70 people, and so we fit in the average. And, you don't have to have the best photos. You just need to have genuine, real photography and information of who you are as a church. And I think a lot of it, too, that is lacking is the back end side of it. Like when it comes to the SEO and the searchability of a site, I'm not going to mention any main web design companies for churches, but they're out there. And if you do an audit of the sites that they create, they're like a C or C plus grading for the back end for the and this is getting into the weeds for the SEO, but that actually impacts local churches negatively because then they aren't showing up in the searches as well. They're being flagged through Google search as potentially spam sites or not healthy sites. And so a lot of that is lacking as well. With smaller churches, even some of the bigger churches. But I think they just need to be themselves. Just be who you are. That's what people are looking for.
Do you guys work with, I know you've got some, what's the website? Tell us the website.
So we actually have an umbrella of JPixel, which is called thebestchurchwebsites.com. Okay. We chose that name, honestly, because it's really good SEO. And so, it's not super creative. Yeah.
Do you like this guy, Steve? I like this guy.
When I started my online business, I was using thebestwebhost.com. And if I remember correctly, and then they just happened to show up and I used them for, I don't know, probably 5 years or so.
Right. I cut you off. Go ahead, Justin.
No, you're good. So we created this umbrella, and that's really where majority of my focus is nowadays is with the Best Church websites. We still do some service-oriented businesses with JPixel, but I've been shifting gears into really just ministry-focused work. And so the Best Church websites, we work with specifically ministries and nonprofits and churches all over the United States and helping them build websites, and then also after the site's live, help them with updates and changes and things like that. And we focus in on the user side, the experience side, but also the back end side. And we do a pay, and this is where it's very ministry focused. We do a pay what you can. So because we work with mostly smaller churches and congregations, we have a pay what you can model. So we'll work with whatever your budget is. Actually, I just did a free website last month because a church of 20 people.
We need to talk after we're done here. But so the website. So where should people go? Tell us what website should they go to?
For the websites or for Pastor's Desk?
Well,
if I could do a 2 for 1,
Well, yeah, give us both. Give us both websites.
So for the Pastor's Desk, it's at thepastorsdesk.com. And then there's a sign up, and I have we're giving it away free as well for users for the life of their account. And so the promo code, when you click on, the $10.99 a month, you put in the promo code PD free account, stands for Pastor's Desk. So PD free account, all one word, and that'll give you the use your account for free for the life of your account.
Wow.
Yeah, we're just trying to get
And then-
pastors on there and get them using it. And then when we launch the team part of the Pastor's Desk, that would be paid. So,
Okay. Yeah. And then the other one,
the
other
bestchurchwebsites.com.
Okay, that's the domain.
Yep.
I remember, Steve. You remember this years ago. We have several products. Our company does that Steve founded, and one of them is streamingchurch.tv, and we talk about that a lot here. But I remember we had somebody create a free trial, and I think Steve, you and I we went and looked at something, their website or something, like, wow, these guys are awesome. This is a big church, and this is really, and then we somehow or another we finally realized, wait, this is not the church. This is somebody else's church, some big national name guy. I don't remember who it was. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that was pretty.
time?
It was like, wow, this is a big fish that signed up, and then we learned that it was a church of about 20 or something.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyhow, yeah. So this just goes to what you were saying, Justin, about you got to be yourself. And all right, so Justin Schultz,
just get online.
Yeah. Justin Schultz has been our guest today, so you can reach out to him to those websites that they can just reach out there, right? To you,
absolutely.
those websites you just gave, and the Pastor's Desk. Sounds like a great app, and actually, I'm interested in the website stuff too. All right, Steve. Anything else? I cut you off numerous times.
I think we're good. Sorry for being late.
Yeah, well, that's okay. We won't. See, you got your hoodie on too, Steve. Good job.
It's cold today. Not like
It's kinda
Michigan
chilly
cold, but Tucson cold.
Yeah, it is kind of nippy out there. All right. So, Justin, thank you so much for being our guest today. And stick around here for a minute or two when we're done. I want to encourage people, hey, start the new year off right. This is our first podcast for the new year. Subscribe to the Church Solutions podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you can give us a rating, that would be great as well. If you want to reach out to us, you can always reach out to us several ways. But one of them would be just go to streamingchurch.tv, and that's you can chat with us there live. And even if we're not there in the middle of the night, you can still leave a chat message, and we'll reach out to you. And if we can help your church in any way, just like Justin Schultz, I'm sure wants to help you in your ministry, please reach out to us. And if you need to reach out to him and you can't figure that out, just go to us and we'll steer you in the right direction. He's Steve Lacey. We've been interviewing Justin Schultz today. I'm Phil Thompson. Please take care of yourself and each other, and we'll catch you again on another episode of the Church Solutions Podcast.